Is your relationship destined for lifelong union or fated to unravel? We often search for answers in horoscopes or compatibility tests, hoping for a map that promises our heart is in safe hands. But what if the most powerful sign isn't in the stars, but is tied into the fabric of your own unconscious mind? What if your relationship's fate is already known, and you just haven't learned how to read it? The brilliant psychologist Carl Jung gave us a map into the mysteries of a human psyche. He revealed that beneath our conscious awareness lies a vast hidden world, an unconscious realm that secretly guides our choices, our attractions, and our deepest bonds. Now, let's be crystal clear. The thought experiment we're about to perform is inspired by Jung's work. You will not find a literal knot test in his collected writings. This is an historical artifact locked in a Swiss vault. Think of it as a modern mirror, a metaphorical tool crafted from his most challenging insights into the human heart. It's been called forbidden not because it's dangerous, but because it demands you look at the very parts of yourself and your relationship that we are often taught to ignore. It asks you to make the unconscious conscious. In a moment, I will show you 3 knots. These aren't just any knots. They represent the fundamental ways 2 souls can bind themselves together. Your intuitive choice, the knot that just feels right on a gut level, will reveal the hidden state of your connection and uncover the deep-seated patterns shaping its future. This isn't about predicting a fixed destiny. It's about revealing a pattern, so you are no longer a slave to it. So, take a deep breath, clear your mind, and prepare to look into the mirror of your own unconscious. Choose carefully. The ground rules of a Jungian perspective. Before we unveil the knots, we must understand the ground on which this is built. To truly grasp what your choice means, you have to see the world as Carl Jung did, a world driven by invisible forces, ancient patterns, and the silent conversation between the person you think you are and the person you have yet to meet. First is the unconscious. Picture your conscious mind, your thoughts, your plans, your sense of me, as a tiny island in a vast, deep ocean. That ocean is the unconscious. Jung believed this ocean wasn't merely a basement for repressed memories, but a dynamic, creative source of wisdom. The catch? When we are unaware of it, its currents direct our lives. We are moved by tides we cannot see, and we call it fate. A powerful quote often attributed to Jung says, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." While scholars debate the exact wording, the verified quote from his book Ion is this: "The psychological rule says that when an inner situation is not made conscious, it happens outside as fate." This is our entire goal today. To make an inner situation, the structure of your relationship, conscious. Swimming in this unconscious ocean are what Jung called archetypes. These are universal, ancient patterns shared by all humans. Think of the hero, the mother, the sage, or the trickster. They aren't just characters and stories. They are psychic blueprints that shape how we experience life and, especially, how we love. You might be drawn to a partner who embodies a caregiver if you're unconsciously seeking nurture, or a rebel if you secretly crave excitement. These pulls feel like magnetism, like you've known each other forever. Now we arrive at 2 crucial concepts for relationships, the shadow and the anima and animus. The shadow is everything we have rejected about ourselves. It is our personal dark side, holding the traits our ego finds unacceptable, our anger, our envy, our vulnerability. But the shadow isn't evil. It can also hold immense strength and creativity if those things were shamed out of us in childhood. Jung even said the shadow is pure gold. In relationships, the shadow is a powder keg. Why? Because of projection. Projection is when you unconsciously take a part of yourself you cannot see and pin it on someone else. When you find yourself intensely, irrationally irritated by a trait in your partner, their messiness, their ambition, their neediness, you are very likely looking at a projection of your own shadow. That thing you can't stand in them is often a disowned part of yourself. This is why relationships are such fertile ground for growth. They are mirrors that show us our own unknown face. Finally, the anima and animus. Jung proposed that everyone possesses an inner, other-gendered archetype. For a man, this is the anima, the unconscious feminine image in his psyche. For a woman, it's the animus, the unconscious masculine image. This isn't about gender stereotypes. The anima often represents qualities like emotional connection and creativity, while the animus represents logic, assertive action, and meaning. When we fall head over heels in love, we are almost always projecting our anima or animus onto the other person. A man doesn't just fall for a woman. He falls for the woman who perfectly carries the projection of his own inner feminine soul. This creates that love at first sight feeling, or the sense that your partner completes you. You found a missing part of yourself, but you found it outside of yourself. The real work of a conscious relationship is to withdraw these projections, reclaim your own soul, and finally see the real person standing before you. With these tools, the unconscious, archetypes, the shadow, and the animus/animus, we are ready. Remember, you're not just choosing a knot. You're choosing a pattern of consciousness. Choose your knot. Here are the 3 knots. Do not overthink this. Look at them and let your intuition, that gut feeling from the deep ocean of your unconscious, be your guide. Which one calls to you? Which knot feels most like your relationship right now? Visually present 3 distinct knots. 1. A solid, perfectly symmetrical and tightly woven knot. 2. 2 separate ropes that are loosely intertwined but not tightly bound. 3. A complex, messy, and tangled knot with many overlapping threads. Take a moment. Breathe. There is no right or wrong answer. There is only a true one. Got your choice? All right. Let's pull on the threads and see what your unconscious has been trying to tell you. Knot number 1. The tightly bound knot of union. If you found yourself drawn to the first knot, the solid, symmetrical, tightly bound one, your relationship is built on the archetypal foundation of union. This is the knot of deep commitment, security, and loyalty. On the surface, it's the ideal relationship we're often sold. It represents 2 people who become one, a fortress of certainty in a chaotic world. The bond is powerful, reliable, and defined by its permanence. A deep sense of we provides immense comfort and safety. You and your partner likely share everything: friends, hobbies, goals. The boundaries between you are soft, perhaps even non-existent. This knot speaks of devotion and a promise held sacred. This is the light side of the knot of union. It provides a powerful container for life. When the world is harsh, you have a safe harbor. When you feel lost, you have an anchor. Others likely admire your relationship for its stability. You know who you can count on, and that certainly provides a sense of groundedness that many people crave. But as Jung would immediately warn, every light casts a shadow, and the shadow of total union is one of the trickiest to escape. Enmeshment and the loss of self. From a Jungian viewpoint, this tight bond can easily slip into unconscious fusion, or what's known today as codependency. This isn't true intimacy. It's a dangerous merging where individual identities begin to dissolve. This is a direct challenge to what Jung considered the goal of human life. Individuation, the lifelong process of becoming your own unique, whole self. In a truly enmeshed relationship, that process grinds to a halt. What does this shadow look like? It often appears as a quiet, creeping fear of individuality. Perhaps one partner gives up a hobby because the other isn't interested. You might realize you've lost touch with friends who are just yours. Decisions, even small ones, cannot be made while consulting the other, not out of respect, but from a fear of acting alone. The unspoken rule is that separateness is a threat. Jung would see this as a problem of cemented projection. Often in this knot, one partner has so completely projected their anima or animus that they've outsourced a part of their own soul. A man who hasn't connected with his own anima, his capacity for feeling and creativity, might become wholly dependent on his partner to provide all the emotional color in their world. A woman who hasn't integrated her animus, her own assertiveness and agency, may rely on her partner to make all the major decisions. This creates a powerful but crippling dependency. You're no longer in a relationship with another person. You're in a relationship with a missing part of yourself. The warning sign is a quiet resentment building under the surface. You might feel subtly suffocated but can't explain why, because you're living the ideal. You may feel a strange guilt when you want time alone. Arguments are often avoided at all costs, because any real disagreement feels like it could shatter the oneness. The rule is, don't rock the boat. But a boat that's never rocked can't go anywhere new. If you chose this knot, your unconscious is showing you a powerful bond, but it's also delivering a warning. Your challenge isn't to cut the knot, but to consciously loosen it. The work is to begin the brave process of individuation within the relationship. This means carving out space for your own identity, reclaiming old hobbies, and nurturing your own friendships. It means learning that the bond doesn't break when you create space. In fact, it grows stronger and more authentic when it's a connection between two whole individuals, not two as clinging together for completion. Knot number 2, the loosely intertwined knot of individuation. If your gut pulled you toward the second knot, the two distinct, loosely intertwined ropes, your relationship is centered on the archetype of individuation. This knot represents a partnership of two whole, independent individuals who've made a conscious choice to journey together, but not to merge. The core values here are freedom, independence, and profound mutual respect. The goal isn't to become one, but to support each other's personal growth. This is a modern, often aspirational, form of love where a relationship is a catalyst for both people to become more fully themselves. The light side here is enormous. There's a deep trust that allows for personal space, separate interests, and individual friendships without jealousy. Each partner celebrates the other's successes. There's room to breathe, to change, to evolve. You might have different passions or beliefs, and these differences aren't seen as threats, but as interesting parts of the landscape. This connection honors a space that always exists between two people, no matter how close. It's a partnership that echoes the Jungian ideal of individuation, where both people are encouraged to grow. This dynamic fosters resilience. Because each partner has a strong sense of self, they are not shattered by life's inevitable crises. They do not look to the other person to complete them. They come to the relationship already feeling whole and choose to share that wholeness. This is a conscious partnership between equals. However, this pattern has a potent shadow. The shadow of total independence is emotional distance and a lack of true intimacy. The very freedom that defines this knot can curdle into a sophisticated form of avoidance. The respect for separateness can become an excuse to evade the messy, vulnerable work of real emotional connection. The two ropes, so beautifully parallel, may never truly touch where it matters most. What does this look like? It often appears as a relationship that's perfect on paper, but feels strangely hollow. You and your partner might be great co-pilots, managing life, running a household, showing up as a successful team. But the emotional core is undernourished. Conversations might stay on the surface, focus on logistics and ideas instead of feelings and fears. Vulnerability might be unconsciously seen as a weakness or a burden. From a Jungian view, this pattern can be a defense mechanism. After witnessing or experiencing suffocating, codependent relationships, people might swing to the opposite extreme, valuing autonomy above all else. The risk is that in protecting their individuality so fiercely, they build walls instead of boundaries. The result can feel more like a respectful business arrangement than a passionate love affair. The telltale sign of this shadow is a subtle loneliness within the relationship. You can be with your partner, yet feel fundamentally alone. When conflict comes up, the tendency isn't to engage, but to withdraw into separate corners, giving each other space that is never quite bridged. You're like two ships passing in the night, admiring each other's lights from a safe distance, but never daring to drop anchor in the same harbor. If you chose this knot, your unconscious is acknowledging the health and respect in your partnership, but it's also pointing to a hunger for deeper connection. Your challenge isn't to sacrifice your individuality, but to learn the art of being both separate and connected. This is the work of brave vulnerability. It means intentionally creating space for emotional intimacy and sharing your inner world without fear. It's about learning that true strength isn't just standing alone, but knowing how to lean on someone without collapsing. The reveal, knot number 3, the complicated tangle of transformation. If you were drawn to the third knot, the chaotic, messy tangle, then your relationship is governed by the volatile and powerful archetype of transformation. This is a knot of passion, conflict, and alchemy. It's the most challenging, the most painful, and from a Jungian perspective, potentially the most rewarding path. This is not a relationship of quiet comfort or detached respect. It is a crucible. It is a fire. It's defined by its intensity, its dramatic highs and lows, and the feeling that you and your partner are locked in a dance you can't escape. These relationships have a magnetic, almost addictive pull, punctuated by explosive fights and passionate reconciliations. This is a knot Jung would recognize instantly. Its tangle is the external sign of the psyche's most powerful forces at work. This is the knot of the shadow. The light side of this chaos is its immense potential for growth. Because everything is so triggering, it constantly forces unconscious material to the surface. You cannot hide here. Your deepest wounds and darkest shadow traits are perpetually activated by your partner. As Jung said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. This knot guarantees a reaction. If both partners are willing to do the excruciating work of self-reflection, this relationship can be a fast track to individuation. Each conflict becomes a chance to understand a hidden part of yourself. However, the shadow side is where most couples get stuck, and it is a truly destructive place. The shadow of this knot is unconscious shadow projection and the repetition of trauma. When a couple is caught in this tangle unconsciously, the relationship becomes a battlefield of projections. A person who has repressed their own anger will see their partner as constantly aggressive. A person who has disowned their own need for control will perceive their partner as a tyrant. You are no longer fighting with the person in front of you. You are fighting your own rejected self mirrored back at you. This explains why the arguments are so volcanic and cyclical. You're having the same fight over and over because the root cause isn't the unwashed dishes. The root cause is a disowned part of your psyche being triggered. Your partner becomes a screen for your inner demons, and they do the same to you. It's a hall of mirrors, and both of you are lost and enraged. This pattern often has its roots in early life. We are unconsciously drawn to partners who allow us to repeat the unresolved emotional dynamics of our childhood. If you had a critical parent, you might choose critical partners, not because you enjoy it, but because the pattern is familiar and the unconscious gravitates toward what it knows, hoping this time it can finally fix the original wound. You are stuck in a loop, acting out the same tragic play again and again. The signs are obvious. Constant fighting, feeling chronically misunderstood, emotional exhaustion, and a dynamic that feels both addictive and poisonous. You can't live with them. You can't live without them. The connection feels like fate, but it's a painful fate. If you chose this knot, your unconscious is screaming for your attention. It's telling you that you are in a relationship with immense transformative power, but right now, you're being burned by the fire instead of purified by it. The only way out is through radical self-awareness. Your work is the hardest of all three. It is the work of withdrawing your projections. The next time you feel that spike of rage, you must learn to stop and ask the terrifying question, is this really about them or is this about me? What part of my own shadow are they showing me right now? It requires taking 100% responsibility for your own emotional reactions. As you begin to own your own anger and your own flaws, you'll find they no longer trigger you so intensely in your partner. Your path forward is alchemy, turning the lead of conflict into the gold of consciousness. Conclusion. So, which knot did you choose? The tightly bound knot of union, the loosely intertwined knot of individuation, or the complicated tangle of transformation? In the end, the specific knot you chose is just a starting point. Each one is simply a different classroom for the soul. The purpose of this exercise, inspired by the profound work of Carl Jung, isn't to lock you into a diagnosis. It is the exact opposite. Its purpose is illumination. To bring us back to that core Jungian idea, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. By recognizing the underlying pattern of your relationship, both its light and its shadow, you are no longer a puppet of that pattern. You've been given a choice. You've been given power. This test is just a mirror. Now that you've seen the reflection, you have the ability to consciously work with the pattern you've been given. If your knot is too tight, you can create space for the self to breathe. If it's too loose, you can weave in threads of vulnerability. If it's a tangle, you can begin the alchemical work of turning projection into self-knowledge. The goal isn't a perfect knot. A relationship without tension is one that isn't growing. The goal is a conscious knot, where both people are aware of the dynamic they're creating and are actively working with it. The best relationships aren't those that avoid problems, but those that use problems as fuel for growth. We'd love to hear which knot you chose in the comments. Did the truth of its light and shadow resonate with you? The first step of any transformation is honest recognition. By sharing, you join a community of fellow explorers, all trying to navigate the beautiful and mysterious territory of love.